Welcome back to 15 Who Dare to Dream. We're profiling the top 15 figures in Pittsburgh's Black history as selected by a blue ribbon panel of area community leaders. And we're all the way to number 3.
And coming in at number 3 on our list was a man who championed civil rights, fair housing, and higher education for all Pennsylvanians during a 30-year tenure in Harrisburg, K. Leroy Irvis.
Longevity is a rarity in the world of politics, but the next of our 15 who dared to dream held the same seat in the Pennsylvania legislature for an incredible 30 years. K. Leroy Irvis served as Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives for over 2 decades, and during his time in Harrisburg, Irvis sponsored over 250 individual bills that became law. He was a champion of equal opportunity, fair housing, and higher education for all Pennsylvanians, and is perhaps best known for founding the community college system here in Pennsylvania.
The only person that I know besides Benjamin Franklin to be elected not once but twice by acclamation to the position of Speaker of the House. He was a man who recognized his potential and moved on to fulfill it.
The thing that he had the uncanny ability to do was to bring black and whites together. His world was a combination of doing things with people, and it didn't matter your color and whether or not you agreed with him, that it was the object of the state of Pennsylvania and whomever he had to bring on board.
He was probably the greatest home run hitter ever to play professional baseball, and he played his entire career with teams based right here in Pittsburgh. Josh Gibson wasn't allowed to play in the major leagues because of the color of his skin. He played instead for the Pittsburgh Crawfords and the Homestead Grays in the Negro Leagues of the 1930s and 40s. Gibson was the team's catcher, but he was best known for what he could do with a bat. Gibson hit some of the longest home runs ever on record, and in 1972, he was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, becoming one of the first Negro League players to be inducted.
I've heard stories about Josh Gibson all over Western Pennsylvania, but also in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic about home runs he hit. And the story was always the same, whether it was in English or Spanish, that was the longest home run they had ever seen hit.
Well, Darius, we've made it all the way to number 1.
We certainly have. We have already profiled 14 incredible men and women, all of whom played an important role in our region's history.
But number 1 on our list of 15 who dared to dream is a man who transcended Pittsburgh and became an American icon and even received international acclaim for his incredible life's work.
We're talking about the man many consider America's foremost playwright, August Wilson. This breathtakingly beautiful building located in downtown Pittsburgh is a testament to the man who was voted number 1 on our list of Black Pittsburgh history makers.
The August Wilson Center for African American Culture celebrates a man who brought stories about his hometown to a national audience and made them ring true for a generation. August Wilson is a 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner, recognized as the greatest American playwright of his era. Wilson's story is Classic Pittsburgh.
The cultural environment of my life is I grew up in my mother's house and I learned the African-American culture at my mother's knee, so to speak.
He was a high school dropout who read ferociously at the Carnegie Library. Wilson brought a $10 typewriter and started writing plays about the tough realities of life in the Hill District. And the 10 plays he wrote during his life, known as the Pittsburgh Cycle, personalized the African-American experience for theatergoers everywhere.
He understood his culture, and he knew who he was. And even though many people would look to see somebody of a darker hue, he was absolutely proud of his black culture, and he knew it. He knew it, and he wrote about it.
I think there were 10 different plays that he wrote, but they were all about Pittsburgh. And he was able to get into the just the psychology of a community and tell the story in such a way that they're still worth telling again, over and over again.
You see the pictures of him writing and scribbling on notepads in coffee shops, and you hear that story all the time, and I hear that that happened, you know, here in the Hill District, but it continued no matter where he went in the world. You know, you could find August Wilson scribbling on a pad of paper, you know, at a coffee shop with a cigarette in his hand.
So, August Wilson, selected #1 by our Blue Ribbon panel.
And of course, like any list of this sort, you might disagree with our panel's choice. But there's no denying that our 15 who dare to dream all played an important role in our region's history, and each of them had a fascinating story in their own right.
We hope you enjoyed watching the show and hope that it spurs conversation among your family, your friends, and your coworkers about the rich history Pittsburgh's African American community has had on all of our lives. I'm Vince Sims.
And I'm Darieth Chisholm. Good night.